All right, hey everyone. So we're Team Wolf Corp 12525 here in Walnut High School at Los Angeles, and we're a 8th year first team and 4th year FTC team. And today we'll be just presenting on our second CAD workshop on creating assemblies and making a channel with a motor in it. And Gordon will be presenting on that, in addition to Nathan and Quinn.
Thanks, Daniel. Let's get right into the lesson, shall we? So, as Daniel said, we're Team Wolf Corp 12525 from Los Angeles, California. So, today we'll be learning about our second class about assemblies. Before we would begin, we highly recommend you get our mouse. It'll just make the learning process much easier. You can go ahead and follow along and pause if you get stuck in a step. Just learn along. So let's get started. So how to make an Onshape account. It's pretty much just making any account. You go ahead and go to this website called onshape.com. Click on the sign in button on the top right. You can go ahead and click sign up, which should be on the bottom right of the login page. From here, we are going to go and select on our public maker plan. Then it's going to ask you with the prompt, what type of person are you or what describes you? You can probably say a hobbyist and maker because you're doing this because you're interested in it. From here, you can go ahead and put the following information as like this too. And you do need to put in a phone number. Then after you fill out all that information, you should be sent an email in order to activate your account. All right, since we're done with making an account, we can go ahead into the actual assembly process. So, assemblies. In this tutorial, we are going to be teaching you guys how to make this corner of the wheel assembly. So we already put everything in a document for you, so you don't need to import it and translate it into a file that Onshape can understand. And once you go on this link, you can go ahead and press make a copy. This will be in the top left where your toolbar should be. If you don't see this make a copy button, you would most likely need to re-log in to your account, which has happened before. And it will tell you that your document's on view only, which means that you have to make a copy in order to do any changes to it. So now I'll hand it off to our next presenter, which will be doing the tutorial of how to use Onshape.
So hello everybody, my name is Nathan, and I will be showing you how to make the assembly part of it. So first, what you want to do is click on the insert button on the top left corner, and then select the channel, the second channel, ending with 0432, and put it onto your workspace and click the green check mark. Once you have your channel onto your workspace, you want to insert a bearing. The piece part ends with 0006. So drag it onto your workspace and click the green check mark. Now you want to click on the bearing that you just inserted, and using this circle on the right, rotate it 90 degrees to the left. So now your bearing is facing your channel. Now what you want to do is look on the protruding side of the bearing so that you can now click on this fasten animate button up here zoom in onto your bearing and click on this edge of it. You should see a circular yellow outline going around. Once you see that, click, and it should stay there. And then go to your channel, zoom in to the second hole, big hole on the left, and then click on that inner circle, on that circle, and press the green check mark. So now it should be inside of the channel. Now what you want to do is insert the same exact piece, because we're going to do it again, but on the other side of the channel. So once you have your other bearing, you want to do the exact same thing, rotate it, but this time rotate it the other way, 90 degrees, because it's going to be going onto this hole on the right side of the channel. So once you've rotated it, click on the fastened mate. Now zoom in onto your bearing, and on that same edge, you want to click on it. Now go to your channel, and now on the right side of it, go to the second big hole and click on the inside hole. So now you have two bearings on the channel, one on each side. Now we have to insert another part, which is called the axle, ending with the number 0100. Once you've put it on your workspace, you want to click on it and rotate it 90 degrees. Now you want to use a revolute mate for this axle because it's going to be rotating. So zoom in onto it, click on this face, go to your channel, and then click on this inner circle of the bearing. So now it should look like the axle is going through both bearings and sticking out through the other side. Now we want to insert another piece called the gear, ending with 0028. First off, you want to zoom in onto it. Now you want to use the mate called slider mate, right next to revolute mate, and then click on this part of the gear, or the inner circle of it. Once you've done that, go back to your channel, and on the left side of it, you want to click on the axle, because when the axle moves, you want the gear to move with it as well. So click on the check mark, but as you can see, it looks like it's inside of the channel. So what you can do to make it look better is click on the gear, and seeing these axes, you want to click on this arrow pointing to the right, because that's where you want to move it. So drag that arrow outside of the channel. As you can see, now it's outside of it. Now it looks pretty. Now, you want to insert a part or an assembly. It should be under the assemblies tab, and it should be the third piece on the list, ending with 0006. This piece is called collar, and what it does is make sure the gear is in place so it doesn't move around. So you want to use, first you want to you want to highlight the entire assembly so you get all the pieces highlighted. And now you want to rotate it 90 degrees. Once you've rotated it 90 degrees, use the fasten animate, zoom in onto your collar, and click on this inner edge where the axle is supposed to go through. It should be highlighted. And then go to your channel and go on the right side of it and click on this most inner circle closest to the axle. And once you see it there, you want to click on the check mark. Now we want to repeat that same step using the same piece. And now do the same exact thing. You want to highlight the whole thing, then rotate it 90 degrees, any direction. And then you want to go on the back side of it now. And using fasten mate, click on that same exact edge we did last time. And then go to your channel. But now on the left side, where there's a gear, you want to click on this inner circle of the gear where the axle is running through. And your collar should be right there. Click the green check mark. And this is what it should look like right now. Okay. Now, moving on to our next presenter, who will show you more assembling and animation.
Thank you very much, Nathan. So now I'm going to tell you how to put the other half of the gear assembly in, which is the motor and the smaller gear. So what you want to do first is insert a pattern mount, which is the square-like part that ends in 0002. And what it looks like is a square with multiple extrusions out of one of its sides. So now you click on the green check mark to import the part. And what you want to do first is position it so that it fits with the channel. And to do this, simply rotate it 180 degrees so that the protrusions on the pattern mount face the side of the channel that has the gear and axle. And now what you want to do first, if you haven't done it before, is right click on the channel and click on fix. So what this will do is basically make it so that the channel can't freely move from its own spot, which will basically make you have an easier time moving all of the parts into the assembly. So now what you want to do is click on Insert, and on the second large hole from the bearing, which should be next to it, go to that large hole and then go one hole up diagonally and then one hole up vertically. And this hole should be directly to the right of one of the longer ones right here. So what you want to do is click on the inside edge of this hole, which will basically line that part up. And what you want to do first before that is click on Fasten Mate and click on that hole. And make sure it's on the inside edge too, because this will line up the inside edge of the channel with the outside edge of the pattern mount. And to line it up with the pattern mount, you simply click on the upper hole on the pattern mount and make sure you click on the outer edge of it. And if you're doing it correctly, you should see that most of the circle is filled in, but not all of it. Once you click that, you should see that your hole is directly lined up inside of your channel. And then you can simply click on the green check mark. Now we're going to actually attach the motor to the pattern mount. And to do this, click on Insert, and instead of Part Studios, go to the Assemblies tab. And then click on Motor. And then simply drag it to wherever you want it to be. Click on it, and then click the green check mark. Now, just like before, you want to line it up with where you want to put it on the robot. In this case, simply rotate it down 90 degrees. And after that's done, do a fastened mate, and for this case, we're going to fasten the upper right hole of the motor. So you want to click on the upper right hole of the motor so that it highlights the outer edge. Again, make sure the circle is only partly complete, because that way you know it's the outside edge. And then move your view to the pattern mount, and specifically you want your view to be on the upper right hole of the pattern mount. And now click on now this hole will be a little different from before in the way that instead of just being one circular hole, there's actually two parts. So click on the circular hole that's closer to the large hole in the center of the wheel. And then click on the bottom edge and make sure that your indicator, which is right here, is in the center of that circular hole. And if it isn't, you'll end up with the holes being misaligned. And if that happens, you can simply just click on the X in this menu and then try it again, as I've done right here. And once you click on the green check mark, you should see that all four holes are lined up to where they should be, and the axle is in the center. Now, if that doesn't happen, then make sure you've clicked on the hole that faces closest to the center and not the outside hole. Now, we're going to attach the gear, and the smaller gear is also an assembly. So go to the Assemblies tab and click on the gear, and it should be pretty obvious which one that is. So move it to where you want it to be, click on it, and then click the green check mark. And then just as before, rotate it to the position you want it to be. In this case, rotating it 90 degrees. Now, do a slider mate where you connect the inner edge of the inner surface of the gear to the outer surface of the axle. And since they're both curved surfaces, they should line up pretty easily with one another. However, if you look closely, you might not be able to tell it from here, but the flat surfaces of both the axle and the gear are not lined up. And to fix this, you can simply click on the button to the left of Solve, which says Reorient Secondary Axis, and then click on it twice. And this will basically reorient it so that the flat surfaces are aligned with each other. Click the green check mark and you should be finished with the entire assembly. However, we're not done yet, as we still have to animate the gear motion. So this step is purely optional, but if you want it to be somewhat accurate, then you can do it if you want. But basically, if you want, you can move the gears so that they line up with each other, as shown here. But now you're going to add a gear constraint, a gear relation actually. And the difference between this and a mate is that this actually connects two revolute mates so that they move relative to each other as if they were connected by gears. So on motor 1 on this menu on the left, click on the arrow to the left of that, and then you'll see a new tab called Mate Features pop up. Click on the arrow to the left of this, and then click on Motor Rotate. Then go down to the Mate Features of the total assembly, and then click on Revolute 1. Now on the gear menu, set the relation ratio to 1.5. Then simply click the green check mark. Now, if you've done this correctly, this should line the gears up so that they rotate relative to each other. Now, you don't have to click and drag the parts. An easier way to do this would be to use the animate feature. So simply right-click on Motor Rotate, click on Animate, and then press play. And what this will do is animate the gears so that you can see them meshing against one another. If you want the speed to be faster, simply decrease the amount of steps. For example, from 300 to 30 makes it go 10 times faster. However, this might also make the frame rate a little bit lower, so you can choose how fast you want it to go. Just remember, a higher speed means less frame rate. If you want it to constantly move, set the playback type to loop, and then it'll move as if the motor is rotating continuously. And that's the basics of how to animate a gear relation and a revolute mate. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I'll pass it back to Gordon.
So you may be wondering, how do you get the parts from the website and then import it into Onshape? Well, this is how you do it. First, you're going to go to the website where it will have the step files or the 3D model files. In this case, we're going to go to this Go Builder website, which we got the pieces from. And then from here, we're going to scroll down to the bottom to the download section. Here, you can click on either the actual ID of the part, which is, for example, the 5202.0002.0019, which is for the yellow jacket motor. Or you can just download the whole assembly just by simply clicking on the step file. Once you download that file, it's going to be a .zip file. That's just a compressed file format, and you just simply have to extract it. So once you extract it, it should have the file extension called .step. This is a 3D model file which we can import into Onshape. So once you're good on Onshape, you can go ahead and press the big blue create button and then press the import files button. This is going to ask you for which file you want to import, and you can go ahead and click on the new downloaded step file. Then it will ask you, what do you want, how do you want to import it to Onshape? You simply collect it on a single document, or you can say you want to put it on a single part studio. From here, it's gonna say it's gonna import, and then it's gonna translate. So this basically takes about 5 minutes per piece, which is kind of long, but in order to use a piece in order to use it on Onshape, it's the necessary step. Thank you for tuning in to our tutorial. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and message us.